the record.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My question is about the letter and intent of the multi-household gathering restrictions as it applies to extended families and students. We've heard from a school administrator around here whose understanding of the restrictions is that extended family members, for instance, grandparents, can provide transportation and after-school childcare, and who have been doing so can continue to do so. But on weekends, or for instance on Thanksgiving, the same grandparents shouldn't and couldn't interact with the family. Is that understanding accurate? And if so, how are schools supposed to supervise and educate their families and students on that level of nuance?
Yeah. What letter are you referring to?
It's a letter that we received from a school administrator whose understanding is that grandparents, for instance, could drive a kid to school, but the same grandparents couldn't interact with the kids on the weekend or during a holiday.
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure if I get the full flavor. I'm looking for Dr. Levine or maybe Commissioner Sherman. Yeah.
It's actually a guidance.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to let Deputy Secretary Boucher answer this because it appears it might come from the Agency of Education.
Thank you, Governor. I believe this might be referring to a piece of our guidance that recommended, again, in keeping with the goal of not mixing up households that routinely were not interacting with one another, that LEAs, local education agencies, build that question into their usual screening process. So I don't believe the intent of that was really to ensure that households that were not already interacting very regularly, such as the case with, we've heard from some families where grandparents are regular caregivers of children. My understanding is that was not the intention of that guidance.
Okay. So if there was a pre-existing arrangement for extended family to care for students that was in place before the application of household restrictions, that could continue, and that interaction would be allowed outside of the context of after-school care.
Well, we actually left, I think that was the tacit understanding, because it really is about social gatherings that do not typically occur. So we didn't speak directly to that issue. That's for certain in the AOE guidance. But we could certainly revisit that and see if there needs to be some clarification on that.
I think Secretary Curley can offer a little bit more as well.
Secretary Curley, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that what we're getting at is we have permitted multiple households to get together where it relates to childcare or healthcare or the needs as we think about. But what we've asked is for multiple households not to gather outside of the necessary care-related areas right now, because so if you think of social gatherings, and this is our ask of them. We understand that sometimes you need to have a carpool or you have childcare, but you don't need to get together on the weekend for a family or a family friend dinner, so to speak. Right now is not the right time for that.
Okay, I guess that muddies the water, but I'll take it for what it is.
Let me try to help you a little more. I think what you're asking is perhaps when a student has been with a grandparent for child care purposes, so that the parent could go to work, for example. The child is permitted to do that and still be in school. But what they could be doing is making extra get-togethers happen, for example, in the evening or on a weekend, where it's truly for social purposes and not for the care of a child, specifically or related to health. Is that helpful?
It is clear to me now. So a grandparent can drive a student on Friday, but can't come over for lunch on Saturday.
Correct.
Correct.
So good, thank you.
It really does come down to that want and need, and it's it's a tough choice to make. But when you think about bringing multiple families together for a social get together, dinner, and so forth, it's not driving someone to school. It's getting together in a much larger group in a social setting without masks and so forth, and that's where the spread seems to take place, or it has been in the past. So that's what we're trying to prevent, but I understand how murky and muddy that might seem and counterintuitive that might be.